we recording?
Yep.
Oh, we are. Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm here with Peter Sellers today, winner of the 2020 Arthur Ellis Award's Best Short Story, which is sponsored by Mystery Weekly. Good morning, Peter.
Good morning, Ludwig.
Peter, you won for your short story Closing Doors, which was featured in Ellery Mystery Magazine. We'd all like to know if you could tell us what was the inspiration for the story?
I spent a long time working in the ad business. And when you do that, you meet a lot of interesting characters. And I worked with a couple of people who had issues. They lived in new developments in the suburbs, and they had issues with loud neighbors, not partying or anything, but just like literally cupboard doors, closet doors, that the slamming sort of reverberated through, I guess, what were relatively thin walls. And I thought that was the basis for something, but I had no idea what. And then one day out front of my bookstore here on College Street, there was a gentleman walking along with one of those air horns that you use maybe at sporting events. And he was firing it off, pointing it at people, firing it off randomly. And it was extremely annoying noise. And I thought, oh, that's it. Those are the two things I need to make this story work.
Okay. Could you tell us a little bit about the story?
Basically, it's about a guy who lives in a house like the one I just described, and he feels that the neighbors are excessively noisy, particularly when it comes to closing the kitchen cabinet doors. And he offers them some assistance, and it escalates from there. There's an air horn involved, and then it gets somewhat out of hand, and it, as is usual with my stories, it doesn't end well.
Fantastic. Curiosity for all the readers out there, we would like to know who or what inspired you to start writing?
I honestly don't know. The earliest short story that I have is something I wrote on half staff, if people are old enough to remember that, in pencil, in about grade 1, which was my version of Scrooge. So I was always writing stories, and then at some point for Christmas, my parents gave me a plastic typewriter, which I feverishly pounded out dreadful things, and that was sort of I was probably about 9 or 10 when that happened. So I've always written stories very slowly. I don't do many, and they take me a long time.
I noticed that you do a lot of short stories. Could you tell us a bit about what are the unique challenges for writing short stories?
Basically finding a market. It's tough to sell them. People say it's difficult. I think writing a novel is difficult because a short story doesn't take you very long. I wrote one novel in my early 20s, which was atrocious, and I've never had the nerve to try it again. I've certainly never had the energy. So I think, writing a short story, you have to be more spare with your language. A lot of times, I think you're obviously dealing with a more modest plot, usually a smaller number of characters. So you have to be a little more, maybe, and I'm not saying this is universally true at all, but you have to be relatively judicious in how you handle your use of language. And that's really it, I think. It's got to be a simpler story. Doesn't mean the themes are going to be smaller, but the story itself is by definition, if it's 5,000 words instead of 100,000 words, there's going to be less there.
All right, thank you. The last thing we'd like to know is, from winning this Arthur Ellis Award, who would you like to thank, or is there?
There are definitely some people I would like to thank. Obviously, I would like to thank the Crime Writers of Canada for their incredible support of crime writing in this country over now many decades, and I want to thank them particularly for giving this award to me, which I greatly appreciate. I want to thank Mystery Weekly for the generous cash award, which at this time of pandemic came in was particularly helpful. I want to thank Janet Hutchings, the longtime editor of Ellery Mystery Magazine, who purchased the story and has been a tremendous supporter of mine for the past 20 years or so. And I also want to thank Linda Landrigan, who's the editor of Alfred Hitchcock Mystery Magazine, the EQMM's companion, who's also been very, very supportive of me. And finally, I'd like to thank Leslie Watts, who is a great editorial eye for me and helps me keep the language to a minimum.
Fantastic.
Thank you for talking to me here.
Well, I want to thank you for joining me today. For all the other readers out there, if they want to find more of your work or learn more about you, where can they go? What magazine can they pick up? What books should they look at?
Well, there's not a lot. There's Mosaic Press put out a collection that I feel pretty good about called This One's Trouble. Came out 4 or 5 years ago. You can find that kicking around. Got a new book also from Mosaic called Kickback and Other Stories, which is coming out in the fall. So that'll be out. And these are thin little books. So if you don't like them, don't worry, because they'll be over fast. And that's about it. Very occasionally, like I write 2 or 3 stories a year, if that. So it's hard to find my stuff.
Is there a website that people can reach you at, or a Facebook page? Or
I don't put anything about my writing really online. You can always go to my bookstore, sellersandnewell.com, and you can reach me through that. But for the fiction, and of course, if you Google Peter Sellers, you get that other guy most of the time. So I'm relatively obscure online.
All right, fair enough. And the bookstore name again was?
Sellers and Newell. Newell is Newell.
Fantastic. Thank you very much today, Peter, for talking to us. And congratulations again on your award. And for everyone else out there, if you want to learn more about the Crime Writers of Canada or the awards, you can head to our website at crimewriterscanada.com. You can always find us on Twitter or on Facebook. Thank you again, Peter, for joining us today. And I guess that's everything. Thank you to all the watchers and readers.
Thank you very much. Take care. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye.